It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce you to Victoria Jackson, author of Lavender Hair, 21 Devotions for Women with Breast Cancer. Victoria joins us the last Monday of every month at the 11 o'clock Central Time hour. Born in 1959, Victoria grew up in a Bible-believing, piano-playing, TV-free home in Miami. Her father coached gym, and she became a talented gymnast, even to winning scholarship to Furman University. When Johnny Crawford, the rifleman, met her at a summer stock production, he encouraged her to pursue acting and bought her a one-way ticket to Hollywood. For 2 years, she held odd jobs in the showbiz capital as a cigarette girl, waitress, and even typist, until Johnny Carson noticed her stand-up routine and put her on The Tonight Show 20 times. After that, she starred in many movies and TV shows, most notably 6 seasons on Saturday Night Live. Author of Lavender Hair, 21 Devotions for Women with Breast Cancer, Victoria Jackson, welcome to Revealing the Truth.
Rabbi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's so good to see you.
I can hear you.
You can hear me. It's a miracle.
Yeah, well, I've said a prayer and for technical help, and now I can hear you.
That is incredible. Well, we weren't able to have you on the program last month, and I don't remember whether it was. I was in Israel, and
no, it was the woman died.
Oh, yeah, Jason's mom passing. Yes, so we took time off from the studio to minister to him and his family, and they are, in that stage of grief, of accepting what took place, and now trying to adjust into a new paradigm of life, as you understand with your situation of being diagnosed with breast cancer is just the beginning of a lifelong process of the before, the during, the after, and then the after, which is kind of the season that you're in now, that is kind of hard for someone who's not gone through it to really understand the cycle of emotional up and downs, even when you've had successful breast cancer surgery, and you go back for that annual visit or 6-month visit or whatever the cycle is, and you hear the good news of no visible signs of cancer based on your last scan. How far are you into this process now?
Well, first of all, welcome back from Israel.
Thank you.
And I've been listening the last hour of you guys talking about how everyone in Israel is so happy to see Americans, and they have Trump signs everywhere.
Right.
That's so cool. I'm very happy about that. Well, cancer. I got diagnosed in 2015, so it's been 3 years, and I don't think about it very much, and I can't remember very much, so I'm sort of glad that I wrote it down. But I noticed that I have a lot of friends now in different stages of it, and it's not people I met in the hospital, it's people my age. I guess I'm at the age, 58, where things like this start to happen to people who are my age, I guess. But a lot of my friends who are getting it are younger than me. And it's just so prevalent. I mean, my friend around the corner, and everyone who gets it is in shock. They're like, I got cancer. It's like, you always think it's someone else. They haven't figured out how to cure it or where it comes from exactly, because we're all so different. Some drink and smoke, some don't. Some are obese, some aren't. Some have a lot of stress, some didn't. I mean, I'm trying to figure out a factor we all have in common so I can be the one who discovers the cure to cancer, but I can't think of what we have in common. So I just had lunch yesterday with an acting teacher, and he told me about his cancer journey. It bonds you very quickly with a person, and they're all unique stories. Nobody's is the same. the lady around the corner got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was in shock. And I went over and we shared our stories, and they're different. It's the same breast cancer, but they find it different ways. They treat it different ways. Mine went into my lymph nodes. Hers did not, because she was smart and she was getting yearly mammograms, and I wasn't, so she caught it early. Hers was stage 1, mine was stage 3B, because I never go to the doctor. And it doesn't show any pain. Like cancer, a lot of times you don't have pain till it's really far gone. So this new person I met, he had a tumor growing behind his belly button. It's very rare. They found it 5 years ago. He's 60 something. And they said it came from when he was born, part of his umbilical cord. Am I getting too gory?
No.
Oh, well, people are interested because they're like, what if it happens to me? So part of his umbilical cord had been left behind, a tiny piece. And I was saying to him, I had a stitch that was supposed to dissolve, but it never did, because half of it was sticking out into the air. If anyone here has a stitch, you should go back to the doctor and have them take it out. It won't dissolve if it's sticking out a little bit. Anyway, so he had this umbilical. I sound like Rosanna, Dana. So his umbilical cord, and as many years go by, I guess it got irritated or they say inflammation or irritation might cause cancer, but the way he discovered it was he was doing this machine at the gym and felt a little tiny pain in his stomach, and it was a tumor the size of an avocado, and they took it out, came back 3 years later. Anyway, I'm at the stage where, and now they took it out again, and he was operated on 60 days ago. He's walking around doing his whole life. Everything's normal. He said he never had any pain. I didn't either. I didn't have pain before, not much during, and not after. It's a very mysterious thing, and so the only thing that makes you look sick is if you're bald from chemo. Otherwise, but my hair grew back. Yay! And I'm so healthy now, I don't think about it very much. But I am in the stage where pretty often I think, is it going to come back? And the first time it's okay. It's like, we're going to fix this. God's going to fix this. And then I think if it comes back, I don't think I'm going to be so enthusiastic. I don't want to be bald again. I don't want to have poison in my veins again. And it'll probably be in a spot that's inoperable or something. My friend just died. She had it 3 years. It went to her brain and her liver. She's a good friend of mine for the last 30 years. Christian, strong Christian, had great attitude, fighting it. They call it fighting it because it's continual, surgery, chemo, radiation, estrogen blocking pill, eat healthy. It's like continually on your mind. But the good thing is that modern medicine really knows how to keep you living and having a good quality of life. Like, I know a lady who her cancer came back 5 times, and she's doing great. She's healthy. She's 60 or something, 5 times. And so that's great news, I mean, if you get it the second time, if I get it second time, maybe I can. But it's all up to God. And our preacher gave a sermon this weekend, Pastor Steve, and he was just saying what I already knew, is that, if the Lord wants you to die today or in 3 months or in a year, what's the difference? We're supposed to live for him every day. Try to glorify him. Try to love him with all our heart, soul, mind. Love our neighbor as ourselves. forgive, which is the hardest thing I think in the Bible. Forgive others for their trespasses against us. And the preacher said God answers some people's prayer, and they don't have cancer again ever, and they die at 90 or 70. And some people, like Rory Feek, Joey Feek, I always get them mixed up. She died at 40, and he didn't answer that prayer. My pastor's son died in a car accident at 17, and they prayed really hard in the hospital, the whole church, and God took him home. And the pastor's like, God chose to take him home. So God says in the Bible, we're to trust him. Your will, not mine, be done, even if we don't understand it. And I have all these friends right now who are fighting it. They're mostly all younger than me. One of them's 30. One of them, it came back. Another one, it came back. And am I talking too much?
No,
Okay.
you're giving our audience exactly what we're interested in, and that is these stages you go through, the thought process. How do you feel in this period of time, this 3-year window? What is the thought life like? We have this wonderful book of 21 devotions. Your faith is unwavering, but even in our faith, our human condition, Paul talks about his struggle of that human condition. I do what I ought not to do, what I should do, I don't, and I have this thorn in my flesh. Is this your thorn? Are people who are cancer survivors, can you go from survivor to thriver and overcomer? Or is there always this little thought that Satan uses to deposit in? And then how does that impact our interaction with other people that may have experienced this with us, but they've moved on because there's no physical manifestation. You have your hair. You don't have an IV. You're not going to the doctors on a regular basis every day, every week. You're not in the hospital. And so they tend to move on with their lives, but there's a piece of you which has still got this connection to the cancer, and the people around you are completely unaware of it. It's one of those, it's not like, it's not overt, it's hidden. And it's the one thing that people don't know how to talk about. They don't know how to do what you're doing, which is go on television and just say, you know what, I do think about it, and I don't want it again, and I've tried it on for size, and I don't want the poison through my veins. I don't want to go through all of this. And so I don't know what I would do if I were to have to face this again. And unless you have someone in your life, a caregiver, a loved one, somebody who you can have these kind of substantive conversations with, then it can be isolating and alone and somewhat of a compartment which is walled off to other people. It's great to share your story with your friend and with your neighbor about what they're going through and say, yes, I remember when I was there, but we're 3 years post you being there. And the question is that are there challenges and things that we need to be aware of? Because one of the commitments we have is to the truth and to transparency and to look at what others are not looking at. And that is, how do we engage life? How do we embrace life, still knowing that there's some little doubt over here, whether or not it's cancer, whether or not it's marriage, whether or not it's alcohol, whether or not it's whatever that little thing is. How do we process that, and how do we let go of it and give it to God? We're talking with Victoria Jackson, author of Lavender Hair, 21 Devotions for Women with Breast Cancer. We're having a candid conversation about what do you do, what do you think, how do you feel, and what you can do, and how God can play a part in taking you through this next stage, which is called post-cancer, 3 years out, post-cancer diagnosis, post-cancer treatment, and right now the annual checkups say all is well, and we're looking for that 5-year milestone. And what are the thoughts that go along with that, and how do you process them, and how do you stay devoted to the one who is devoted to you, and that is the Lord? We'll be right back after these messages. Back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere, and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, we invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our 1-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Back. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking, as we do at the 11 o'clock hour on the last Monday of every month, Victoria Jackson, author of Lavender Hair, 21 Devotions for Women with Breast Cancer. Vicki, welcome back to the program.
Hi, do you see this funny thing in my computer? No, it's gone. Okay.
It's gone. No, we didn't see anything funny. We just see you. And when we went to break, we were talking about how Paul, talked about this thorn in his flesh, this constant reminder of something. We don't know exactly what it was, but we do know that he talked about it, and it's something that was there. And in our case, we're taking a look at cancer as possibly being, for you and for others, that reminder of something that is still, it's going on your mind, but other people don't look at you that way, they don't interact with you that way. It's something you went through. They went through it with you. Now their part is done, but that doesn't always bring an end to the story of what our thought life is like when we're dealing with the what ifs and the question marks, and that's when we need to turn really our focus on the Lord, who is going to sustain us through it.
Well, I just wanted to talk about the thought life. What I noticed is that when I did not have cancer, I had thorns in the flesh, maybe 2 or 3. Paul only had 1, but and the funny thing is, like, they were constantly bothering me. I was constantly praying about them. And I went, this must be my thorn in the flesh. And then I'm like, no, this one must be. This is my sub. But then when I got cancer, that was my main problem. Now that I don't have cancer, these other thorns are back on top. And it's funny, it's like the human mind, it's like prioritizes. It's like, let's say you have a rift in your family with somebody and you get cancer. The rift, no one's thinking about it. We're thinking about cancer, survival. How do we, live? And even though we're all going to die, and to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, and I hear it's way better up there. Hallelujah. But, but then the cancer's gone, so the rift is back on top. The rift. I know some people get cancer and they change and, they appreciate every moment of the day again. But what I found is things go back to the same old stupid, petty, shallow things. Like, this is a dumb example. Like, I got to lose 10 pounds. Like, I was just trying to not die, and I was bald-headed. And now my hair grew back, and now I'm trying to be thinner again. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm back to human, shallow, petty. But then, you got the rifts and the conflicts, the relationships. You got the, so the thorn, it's like there's always a thorn. Sometimes it changes into a different kind of a thorn. It's like a spiritual battle all the time. And every day, the verse that says a day to the Lord is like 1,000 years?
Yes.
I always think that each day is like a lifetime. And it's kind of like Groundhog Day, the movie. You wake up and you got the same, I'm going to go get my coffee, and then I'm going to try to go to the gym, and then I'm going to try to be nice to this person who's mean to me, and then I'm going to, give the dogs a play date. So, and it's, kind of like, and then I'm going to read the Bible, and then I don't have time, and then I'm going to read the Bible, and then the phone ring, and it's kind of, it's like 1,000 years, the decisions you're making. They're either pro-God or against God. They're either for your flesh or for the spirit. And it's continual, And then you go to bed at night and you try not to wrestle with all the thoughts of the day, The Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Myers. And you go, how can I be peaceful? thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusteth in thee. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep my mind on you, God, and I'm going to trust you. So my new motto for this year is trust God and do good. Joyce Myers was preaching a sermon on it, and then I stumbled upon that same phrase in Psalms. And I don't believe in women preachers, but she's a great teacher, I gotta say. And so that's my answer to post-cancer thinking. My thoughts went right back to what they used to be. How does my hair look and that kind of stuff.
So this is something that's a natural process. The people around you don't look at you as Vicky who had breast cancer. They don't treat you like Vicky who had breast cancer. You're now on the other side of this. But you also are attracting a new set of friends who do relate to the breast cancer, and your neighbor who's talking to you about his situation and circumstances. Because from this perspective, looking back on it, we're supposed to harvest from our experiences. We're supposed to harvest to glorify God. The question of the blind man who sinned, his mother and father or him, and neither, so that your Father in heaven would be glorified. Well, glorified how? Glorified in his healing, glorified in his trials, glorified in his testimony, glorified in the way we speak of God relative to our circumstance. How do we glorify God even in the face of cancer?
Glorified in your death. Part of the sermon from Pastor Steve was his friend is dying of cancer. He says, I'm going to show the world what it looks like for a Christian to die of cancer. That's the ultimate testimony. Say, this is what it looks like for a believer to be dying of cancer.
All right. And listen, Jesus says, you are the light of the world. Let your light so shine that man would see your good works and bring glory to your Father in heaven. We consider to be works to be something that's productive, something that is contributory. But yet, in our suffering, do we glorify God? Is that where you're called to ministry? Is that you're in the same room with 5 or 6 or 7 others receiving their bag of poison along with you, and are you talking about the Lord, and are you the one that's upbeat and have the good personality? We see the example with Joshua and Caleb. 10 came back with a bad report, and the bottom line they said was that they would die. And guess what? They did. And Joshua and Caleb saw the exact same thing, received the exact same diagnosis, and said, we shall live. And lo and behold, they lived. And so it's no different than 12 people getting the same diagnosis on the same day, and 10 walking away and say, what did the doctor say? And the doctor said, I'm going to die. And 2 said, when asked, what did the doctor say? 2 say, hey, we're going to live. And lo and behold, that's what happens, and that's how God gets glorified. In your process, and here you are 3 years post-diagnosis, post-surgery, post-therapy, post-recovery, do you consider yourself recovered, or is that little specter of that trial and tribulations of Job? In the end, we read that Job is restored double what he started out with, but he still suffered some loss along the way, and we're never told why this happened to Job. We're never given the answer, why Job? We're never given the answer, why Vicki Jackson? But we can take a look at it, and God says, can she be trusted to take what I've given her that the world would complain about, and can I trust her to bring glory to my name? And will she be faithful? As she was faithful in health, will she be faithful in sickness to glorify me and to tell people to look for the comfort where she received her comfort, and that was in the strength of the Lord? Can you be trusted? And that's the question all of us have to answer, is in our trials and tribulations, can we be trusted to endure, to persevere, and give a good report, even though, as Paul says, we may be dying, but we're living. We may be broke, but we're wealthy. We may be sick, but we are healed. We may be persecuted, but we are triumphant. All those things, it's just a matter of how we choose to grab a hold of it that tells us whether or not we're bringing glory and honor to the one who made us and sustained us for such a time as this.
I love to hear you talk, Rabbi.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to tell you that Christopher Hitchens, when he was dying, and he's a famous atheist, you know, I was so interested to read his last book. And it was called Mortality, I think. Would you guys Google it? Because I don't know how to talk and Google at the same time.
Okay.
I think it's called Mortality. So I was like, when I had cancer, I was like, oh man, how does a person who doesn't believe in Jesus or God, Jesus is God,
It's called Mortality.
Mortality. How do they die of cancer with no hope? Like, I can't even imagine, right? So I thought, if I'm dying of cancer, I want to write a book called Immortality, and it to be the exact, like maybe the cover would show him bald and me bald, because I thought we looked very similar when we were both bald. I mentioned that in my book, Lavender Hair. Lavender Hair did not turn into a book about me dying because I don't feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm 18 because I'm eating healthier than I ever did, and I'm doing everything right and sleeping a lot and drinking water from the super water store and everything. But I'm thinking that if I did get it back and I was dying, like on a morphine drip in a bed all day, I think I would like to write the book Immortality and read everything Christopher Hitchens wrote, in each chapter, and just do the flip side. Like Julia Sweeney wrote that play, Letting Go of God, about her journey into atheism. And I've always wanted to write a one-woman show. Hers was a one-woman show. It was basically a testimony. It was like an anti-testimony of letting go of God. And I've always wanted to do the opposite, like holding on to God. Not as edgy of a title there, but something that's the opposite, like my testimony. She starts at age 5 as a Catholic and going, what is sin? I didn't know I had sin. And I started at age 6 in the Baptist church going, sin? Oh, I think I was mean to my brother twice. That's a sin, right? And we started that journey of your spiritual awakening. And then she goes into atheism, and my faith grows. And we both got cancer, and it's like, how did her faith handle it? Well, she lost whatever faith she had in God, gone. Mine got stronger. The only thing is, like, I don't know, as a human, when you're suffering physically a lot and the sadness of saying goodbye to your family and everything, I think it's kind of challenging, to keep a big smile on your face. Maybe you can have joy in your heart and hope for eternity with the Lord. Psalm 23, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Right.
But maybe on the outside, it's probably not. It might be hard to be all, Tig Notaro, the lesbian stand-up comedian, she made a great stand-up routine out of her cancer, and I've been watching her on Netflix. And I think that cancer survivors or people with cancer take comfort in meeting and talking with other people, especially watching a comedian explore. Like, I only came up with like 3 jokes and 2 songs about cancer, but she has a very dry, deadpan wit, and I think she handled it well. I don't know if she believes in God. but maybe someday I can meet her and talk to her about him or something.
Well, the inspiration that we get from those who come out the other side of this and share their authentic stories and their authentic struggles. It was the quiet times as you lay in bed that it was just you and the Lord. It was the quiet times when the machines were making their noises and the beeps were going off. You were in that strange place, receiving that strange treatment, wondering and seeking out truth from God and finding your strength and hope in God to sustain you. Then you have what I call a period of reentry. Now the cancer's, they've got it, your cycle of treatments is done, you're now on the recovery part, your hair is growing back, you're trying to maintain some kind of normalcy. Everybody else seems to plug right back into their lifestyle, their routines, and you're left alone with your own thoughts to say, okay, now what? And how does my life change from here? What do I do? How do I do it? And who do I do it with? And you find that really the only one was the only one you could do it with before the diagnosis. And so that doesn't change. Your strength is in the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. But it's how do you get back to that place becomes the area of navigation. That's the place where here you are post-diagnosis, post-surgery, post-treatment, and you're cancer-free, but yet you still have question, and you still probably need the Lord much more than you did even in the reassurance you got from surgeons, the reassurance that, yes, we caught it in time, the reassurance that we have clear margins, the reassurance that we have the right medications, we know what we're doing. Now you're in this phase where other people don't look at you as Vicki, the cancer survivor. You're back to Vicki Jackson looking for parts, doing gigs, trying to get roles in more movies, hopefully pitching a sitcom. Maybe you'll replace
Writing songs.
Writing songs. Maybe they'll pick you to replace Roseanne on the Roseanne Show. You know, let's speak that. Let's speak that into life.
I kind of talk like that.
Yeah,
hey, how you doing? My name's Roseanne.
There you go. So you can still do her, and you know, there's as I told you when you and I first became friends, if you remember, I said to you that God's not done with you, and that part of my mission is to let the world get to see a Vicki Jackson that they might not have known before from Saturday Night Live. They might not be of a generation, but that they can relate to your spontaneity, your true joy, your purity of just, you grew up in a Bible-believing home. You didn't grow up with television. You love the Lord from and it's cost you jobs, it's cost you friends, it's cost you relationships because you have maintained your integrity and not succumb to the casting couch or to the lure of compromise that Hollywood so often dangles in front of you. If you'll just do this, we think we can get you a part here. And because you've maintained who you are, your integrity, your faithfulness, is why we have you as a regular on the program, that yes, you can be on Johnny Carson's show 20 times. You can spend 6 seasons of what I consider the best of Saturday Night Live's history with the Dan Aykroyds and with the Chevy Chases and with the original crew of John Lovitz and Dana Carvey.
Kevin Nealon.
Right, Kevin Nealon. And so people who go back in that time realize that that was real comedy. It wasn't political. It was funny. It was edgy. It was funny. It was fun. And you were a part of that 6-year window. But yet, even in the celebration, you were shunned because of who you are. You're an outspoken Christian, believing and somewhat evangelical in your beliefs, that they should be shared with others as God spared you, He carried you, He sustained you, you prospered in Him, and now it's your season to shine as His beloved and for people to get to know you. And if they get to know you worldwide through this program and through other programs, then God bless you for that. There's no reason that your talent should be hidden under a lamp. You are the light of the world, and God's calling you for your light to so shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Right.
How many minutes do we have left, Rabbi?
We have 3.5, enough time for your new song.
Okay, so I was going to tell you, you asked me before, do people treat you different after cancer?
Yes.
My good friends don't. Judy, she treats me the same. Some people treat you like you're going to die soon, so they kind of treat you like you're already gone. But most of my friends treat me the same. Okay, so this is my new song. I don't even know the words yet, and I don't know how to bring them up here while we're still here. But my friend Buddy said that he was reading a children's book, a book of prayers from children to God. And the last one said, "Dear God, I'm doing the best I can. Love, Mikey," or something. So I thought that should be a song. People point their fingers, tell me that I'm wrong, turn their head away, say I don't belong, cover up their ears, they don't want to hear my song, but I'm doing the best I can. Love, dear God, I'm doing the best I can, doing the best I can, love me. Writing you this letter because I know you're real. They don't understand me, but you know how I feel. I try to be like you, walk the straight and narrow way, but I keep falling down, so that's why I must say, dear God, I'm doing the best I can, doing the best I can, love me. Now, there's more verses, but at the end, soon I will be home and get to rest my weary feet. I can't imagine heaven, but I know it's sweet. Repeat, I'm doing the best I can. Love me. Okay, so at the end of the song, when I record it for real, I'm going to play it for you with, beautiful, Rabbi. But right now, this is like the second day since I wrote it. At the very end, because the song sounds like the child thinks you have to be good to go to heaven. Right. No. Ephesians 2:8-9. For by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves, that is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. And then I'm going to quote Psalm 103:14-17, and it says, He remembers our frame, He remembers that we're dust. And that's the chapter that talks about He separates our sins as far as the east is from the west, and He's compassionate, and He remembers our that we're dust. And so I'm going to end this song with that.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're going to hear that release on your next visit on July the 30th. At 11 a.m. for the next segment of Our Time with Victoria Jackson, author of Lavender Hair, 21 Devotions for Women with Breast Cancer. The victory belongs to the Lord, but each day we fight this battle. There are things that are in our control and things that are out of our control, but one thing we can do is bind our minds to the mind of God and ask Him to sustain us each and every day. in this love letter to God, in this admission to God. We're doing the best we can, but if we can just do 1 degree better today than we did tomorrow, then we're moving ourselves forward along that path that God has us walking on. Victoria Jackson, thank you so much for always being candid and transparent, and God bless you, my personal dear friend, and we will talk again soon. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.